Hello everyone, how are all of you? I believe all of you are healthy and happy. And today we are going to get started with chapter number 3 from the book Hornbill Discovering Tut. The saga continues. And earlier I told you that how ancient Egypt was filled with mysterious things and events, and archaeologists are trying to find out answers to various questions not only associated with King Tut but also with everything that is found there, may it be the high, tall, majestic pyramids, or may it be the underground burial chambers. So ancient Egypt itself is filled with mysteries, and we are going to find out something mysterious about King Tut through this chapter. The chapter begins with a small paragraph about King Tut, a basic description. He was just a teenager when he died, the last heir of a powerful family that had ruled Egypt and its empire for centuries. He was laid to rest laden with gold and eventually forgotten. Since the discovery of his tomb in 1922, the modern world has speculated about what happened to him, with murder being the most extreme possibility. Now, leaving his tomb for the first time in almost 80 years, Tut has undergone a CT scan that offers new clues about his life and death and provides precise data for an accurate forensic reconstruction of the boyish pharaoh. So, the picture in your books is basically the result of forensic reconstruction. It is the result of the CT scan that took place, and we came to know that how King Tut used to look like. And he was a boy, a mere boy of 9 years when he became king, and he was a teenager in his late teens when he died. So he is being referred to as the boyish pharaoh. Pharaoh is the ruler in ancient Egypt. And here in the picture you can easily guess that who the pharaoh is. King Tut was one such pharaoh, but he died pretty young. This map is also in your books on page number 24. We have Africa at the bottom, and then in Africa we have Egypt, and in Egypt we have the Valley of the Kings as well as the Valley of the Queens. So King Tut's body was found in the Valley of the Kings, where the rulers, the pharaohs, the kings were buried when they died. So the mummy was found there. Now coming to the text. An angry wind stirred up ghostly dust devils as King Tut was taken from his resting place in the ancient Egyptian cemetery known as the Valley of the Kings that I showed you. Dark-bellied clouds had scudded across the desert sky all day and now were veiling the stars in cascade grey. So these lines are pretty wonderfully written, filled with vocabulary. Brilliant vocabulary to be really exact. So we have the ghostly dust devils. So what was happening? The dust was all there. It was like a sandstorm, when the CT scan was taking place. And we have the dark bellied cloud also. It means that the sky was turning dark. And cemetery is a place, the burial place where many dead bodies are being buried. That is a cemetery. Where was it? It was in the Valley of the Kings, and Tut's body was also found there only. And then the cascade grey, that is mentioned, that now we're veiling the stars in cascade grey. So cascade grey is that dark color, as you can see, the dark grey color, and the sky was turning dark. The stars were hidden behind the dark sky. This is what is mentioned here. The scene is basically mentioned here. It was 6 p.m. on January 5, 2005. The world's most famous mummy glided head first into a CT scanner brought here to probe the lingering medical mysteries of this little understood young ruler who died more than 3,300 years ago. So the CT scanner was brought to find out that what has happened to him, how did he die, how old was he, and CT scanner is like this. And first of all, the head goes inside, and that is why it is written in the book that head on. Moving forward to the next paragraph. All afternoon, the usual line of tourists from around the world had descended into the cramped rock-cut tomb some 26 feet underground to pay their respects. So, where was Tut found? He was found in an underground burial chamber. 26 feet underground burial chamber. And obviously, he was one of the most, not one of the most, but yes, the most popular mummies of ancient Egypt. And that is why there were many tourists coming to see the burial chamber, the mummy, over and over again. The entire place was filled with tourists. They gazed at the murals on the walls of the burial chamber and peered at Tut's gilded face, the most striking feature of his mummy shaped outer coffin lid. Some visitors read from the guidebooks in a whisper, others stood silently, perhaps pondering Tut's untimely death in his late teens, or wondering with a shiver, if the Pharaoh's curse, death, or misfortune falling upon those who disturbed him was really true. So, as I said, that the entire place, Tut's burial chamber, was always filled with tourists, and they would look at the murals on the walls. So, this is Tut's burial chamber, and tourists are looking at the murals on the wall. So these are the wall paintings where the life and the history is being painted beautifully. There is this iconic gilded face also, the one that I showed you in the beginning. And the mummy shaped coffin is there. Inside this only, the mummy of King Tut was found. So the tourists would look at all these amazing things, but they were always thinking that whether that Pharaoh's curse is real or not. There is a curse that is being said. It's kind of superstition that whosoever will disturb the dead, that is the mummies, something bad is going to happen to them. So they were worried about themselves also, whether the curse is real or not, whether something bad will happen to us or not. So there were all sorts of things. When you go inside these mysterious places, there is a sound always lingering around, and you feel that as if the dead are always around you. So the same was felt by the tourists there. Well, the mummy is in a very bad condition because of what Carter did in 1920, said Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, as he leaned over the body for a first long look. Carter, Howard Carter, that is, was the British archaeologist who in 1922 discovered Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. So we have these two people, Howard Carter on your right, the one who discovered the tomb in 1922 after years of futile searching. That is, he was searching for mummies and burial chambers for many years, but he could not find a lot for a long period of time. But then in 1922, he suddenly found Tut's tomb. And then we have Zahi Hawass, the Secretary General, who is working there now and who was taking care of this entire episode related to King Tut. And he said that the mummy is in a very bad condition of what Carter did. So we'll come to know what he did. But he discovered the tomb in 1922. Its contents, though hastily ransacked in antiquity, were surprisingly complete. The biggest fact about King Tut and the mummy is that the mummy was buried along with a lot of things that were never being buried with many other kings or queens. He was the first one where the burial chamber was filled with gold and riches and plant products and everyday use things. It was complete. And that's what amazed the archaeologists as well as the world. They remain the richest royal collection ever found and have become part of the pharaoh's legend. Stunning artifacts in gold, their eternal brilliance meant to guarantee resurrection, caused a sensation at the time of the discovery. and still get the most attention. So people are surprised and stunned that why this mummy was found with everything anybody could think about, like gold and precious things and gems. It was so much. So they were pretty wealthy and they put in everything with King Tut. Why was he so special? People are still surprised. Well, so King Tut was indeed buried with all that gold, but Tut was also buried with everyday things he would want in the afterlife, like board games, a bronze razor, linen undergarments, cases of food and wine. So, uh, British archaeologist, as I told you, Howard Carter. If you don't know, then archaeologist is a person who studies human history and prehistory through the excavation of sites and the analysis of artifacts and other physical remains. And yes, I told you that the burial chamber, his mummy, everywhere it was all gold, and people were stunned to see all that gold everywhere, and they are still surprised that how come these people were so rich and they had such sophisticated knowledge of preparing all these items. And Tut was also buried along with daily use things. Now let us go through this particular notion of resurrection, because ancient Egyptians, they were very superstitious kind of people and they believed in afterlife and rebirth. So, well, ancient Egyptians strongly believed that death was mainly a transition. They thought that the Ka, Ak, and Ba, that is the soul in all human beings, does not die. They believed that the soul, after bodily death, flew to the other world in the daytime, and with the help of the sun god, the soul returned to the tomb by night to meet its embalmed body. The ancient Egyptians' extensive practices during mummification and in serving food offerings to the dead suggest that they believed that the body would resurrect after death. For example, after the death of King Teti, the ancient Egyptians thought that the king would rise to continue with his journeys in the afterlife, so they buried him with goods he needed in order to continue his journey. So, because they thought that death was only a transition and our kings would rise up and go to the afterlife and they have to live again, and because they have to live again, they have to have everything, like the daily use things. They have to have all their riches with them, they have to have all their dresses with them. To make their life more comfortable, they would fill everything, their mummy and the burial chamber, with everything they would require in the afterlife. So, well, this was about resurrection. Coming back to the text, after months of carefully recording the pharaoh's funerary treasures, the treasure that was found and the treasure that was placed there during the funeral, Carter began investigating his three nested coffins. So, the mummy, Tut's mummy, was found in a three nested coffin. And that's again a surprising aspect. That has never happened to any other mummy. This was the first mummy where it happened. Three nested coffin was there. So you can see the three nested coffin. The one, then there was another one, then there was another one, and then there was the mummy. So Carter reached the third coffin and there he found the mummy. Opening the first, he found a shroud adorned with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers, the faded evidence of a burial in March or April. So, the produce here, the natural produce, shows that Tut might have been buried during the month of March and April. When he finally reached the mummy, though, he ran into a trouble. The ritual resins had hardened, cementing Tut to the bottom of his solid gold coffin. No amount of legitimate force could move them. Carter wrote later. What was to be done? So Carter finally found the mummy. The mummy was mummified indeed. And for mummification, the resins are used, the paste kind of thing. So what happened that those resins, they were hardened like cement, and the mummy was completely attached to the gold coffin. Now, as the archaeologist, Carter required the mummy. How to take it out? He tried everything, but he could not take out the mummy. That was his problem. So let us see what he did. The sun can beat down like a hammer this far south in Egypt, and Carter tried to use it to loosen the resins. For several hours, he set the mummy outside in blazing sunshine that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. So he thought that okay, the temperature here is very high, and if I keep the mummy and the gold coffin outside, then what will happen that the paste will loosen up and I can take out the mummy. But that was completely useless. Nothing budged, nothing moved at all. He reported with scientific detachment that the consolidated material had to be chiseled away from beneath the limbs and trunk before it was possible to raise the king's remains. So, what he did, he finally used chisel. Carter used chisel to take out the mummy and damaged it irreparably. So, this is how the chisel is used. And he did the same thing with the mummy. And the mummy was age old, thousands of years old. So, if you would do something like this to the mummy, definitely it could not end up with good results. In his defense, Carter really had little choice. If he hadn't cut the mummy free, thieves most certainly would have circumvented the guards and ripped it apart to remove the gold. So, when he damaged the mummy to an irreparable extent, what did he say? He said that I had to take out the mummy, otherwise, the thieves would have circumvented the guards and took away everything. The circumvent is to avoid something especially cleverly or illegally. Now you can look at the man who is going inside, making a fool out of these two people. So in the same manner, the thieves would have made a fool out of the guards and would have taken away all that gold. In Tut's time, the royals were fabulously wealthy, and they thought or hoped they could take their riches with them. So that is why Carter said that preserving the mummy was more important, otherwise, we would have ended up with nothing. For his journey to the great beyond, King Tut was lavished with glittering goods, precious collars, inlaid necklaces and bracelets, rings, amulets, a ceremonial apron, sandals, sheaths for his fingers and toes, and the now iconic inner coffin and mask, all of pure gold. So he was completely covered in gold. On his mummy, on his body, the gold was there. In his burial chamber, the gold was there. People were surprised to see all that gold. And there is one particular word, sheaths, Sheaths. Sheaths, as you can see here, these are the sheaths for fingers and toes. So Tut was buried along with all these things and that iconic mask that I showed you earlier. To separate Tut from his adornments, now what happened that the necklaces were there, the sheaths were there, the apron was there, sandals were there, amulets and rings, everything. He was wearing everything actually. And Carter needed the mummy only. And he didn't know how to detach both, the gold ornaments and the mummy. So that's how he chiseled away and damaged the entire mummy. Carter's men removed the mummy's head and severed nearly every major joint. Severed as in detached or damaged. Once they had finished, they reassembled the remains on a layer of sand in a wooden box with padding that concealed is hid, Hid, the damage, the bed where Tut now rests. So they damaged it and later on they put the padding and they covered it as if nothing has happened. And later on, when the mummy was found again, then it was revealed that Carter, yes, he found the mummy. He was the one who discovered it, but he was the one who damaged it too. So, today's session I will close now with this particular thought that the world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes. So if you look at the small gate here, it's a kind of, it's not even a gate, it's like a cave mouth. So if you look at it, it's just nothing. It doesn't appear to be very mysterious. It doesn't appear that it would hold so much gold inside. But once you get inside it, then you come to know that it is not holding all that gold, but it is holding a piece of history with it. The life of King Tut was there, and we would learn so much about history from this small opening. So we will learn more about King Tut in the coming sessions. For now, let's close it and goodbye.